Welcome, good hunters, and this is the Fun Reborn, Dark Souls and Soulsborne playthrough. Today we inject a little Bloodborne into the mix. So let's start things off with just going straight into the first cutscene.
Oh, yeah. Pale blood. Well, you've come to the right place. Yharnam is the home of blood ministration. You need only unravel its mystery. But where's an outsider like yourself to begin? Easy, with a bit of Yharnam blood of your own. But first, you'll need a contract.
All right. Don't worry too much about the name. It's an inside joke. The origins are very, very intriguing in this game. We have a lone survivor of a lost hamlet. Specifically, that one stands out because we go back to a hamlet later on that So what am I going to run with? Well, I think I want low arcane and fairly low skill. So probably a 7 arcane, ideal. 10 skills, fine. Yeah, we'll be that lone survivor. It's actually mechanically fine and thematically appropriate. Maybe I should rename. I'm not going to spend too much time with this, but yeah, given that we're the lone survivor, this is actually a little more appropriate. And let's go right into the full intro cutscene.
Good. All signed and sealed. Now, let's begin the transfusion. Oh, don't you worry. Whatever happens, you may think it all a mere bad dream.
found yourself a...
Couple interesting things with that cutscene. The first is I feel that it, among other stuff in this game, invokes a bit from Dark Souls 2 about three monarchs. One whose kingdom succumbed to poison, one whose kingdom was burnt in fire, and the last two remained frozen. Blood in this game becomes more attached to poison explicitly later on. We see the bloody werewolf turn to flames, and I see the messengers at the end being the ones that are tied to being frozen. You are essentially being frozen when they do their thing. It's also, I think, interesting that we hear a voice, and I would argue that the voice is not talking to the person who we signed the contract with. The voice is talking to those messengers. There is one particular note that I want to make sure to read. I thought it was there anyway. Anyway, let's talk about pale blood. Miyazaki is intentionally being a bit duplicitous when he talks about pale blood in this intro. We're told to seek it. We don't really know what it is. When asked in an interview about it, he actually gave more than one answer. Wow. That's the saddest werewolf chase yet. Okay, so he gave more than one answer. I don't really want to be there. Well, werewolf is making it up in persistence. We have a foreshadowing scream. We have our first lantern. We light it, bring our messengers, and it's something I should point out that the lanterns have little bells at the top of them. Anyway, we're talking about pale blood. In the interview, he gives more than one answer for what pale blood could be. This suggests, this more than one answer, that there's not really even agreement within the world what pale blood is. They all perhaps know to seek it, but there are different schools of thought as to... Interesting that that's empty at the moment. I've never noticed that particular detail. Different schools as to what pale blood is, what is it that you are seeking, and arguably you as the player are never entirely sure. I have a theory though. We'll take a little bit to get to that. I'm gonna go with Saw Cleaver. Gonna make sure to equip Saw Cleaver. Right. Yes, German. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Aha. You must be the new hunter. Welcome to the hunter's dream. This will be your home for now. I am... Gehrman. Friend to you hunters. You're sure to be in a fine haze about now, but don't think too hard about all of this. Just go out and kill a few beasts. It's for your own good. You know, it's just what hunters do. You'll get used to it.
I love the casualness of that intro. Anyway, one thing I want to impress upon you is that the hunter's dream is not a night in the hunt is not a singular night. And you're trying to escape the hunter's dream, which at this moment seems like the only part of this that isn't dreadful. Everything outside of it is more dreadful, but that should suggest that this place is a little more threatening than it appears at first glance. This game puts you at a very interesting start where you have no way to level up, you have no idea what it takes to level up, and the first thing we're going to do is activate that leveling up. I would be curious to see what the standard route most people take is. I suspect that there's one particular area that is the most likely one for people to encounter, but we're going to take what I think is the second most likely one because it's thematic. It's actually the run that I tend to use most when I start this, just, I don't know, for the hell of it, honestly. So yes, the hunt. A lot of people suggest or have the idea that, you know, if you make it through it, you just wake up the next morning. It's informed a little bit by one of the endings, but I think the hunt is eternally repeating until you can break the cycle. And there is an utter sense of outer worldliness to everything that you see. It's not... Hello. It's not a normal night. I think it's best thought of as a kind of purgatory. Kind of like a Lovecraftian Groundhog Day.
Are you that outsider? Well, sorry, but I don't want anything to do with you. Trot along, will ya?
The emphasis on outsider is a fun element in this game. If we look at our own clothing, it's foreign. The foreignness is very emphasized. A fear of outsiders is a big part of what's trying to be conveyed here. That was sad. I deserve it. A lot of people get stuck in this particular section the first time they play. You can't level up, you can't really make it easier in the way that you traditionally do in a Souls game. It is a very intriguing sort of section. Another thing to note is that the enemies are carrying improvised weaponry. A pitchfork there is not really a standard military weapon, it's more evocative of sort of farmers or craftsmen finding the need to survive in this world. We see the first instance of trying to use Estus. I even knew that ambush was coming. It's sad. We get some basic equipment here. It's not even really necessary, but... This guy always staring there. It's something I wish I had an answer to. We've got our first sort of crucifixion, a symbolism that shows up later in Dark Souls 3. Anyway, this section. You can try to fight through it. It's actually sort of fun, but we're not. There's a good... It sort of evokes the idea of who the hunter and who the hunted is. You feel like you are being chased down, and also you feel like to survive there, if you're even trying to attack, you have to split up the pack. You have to be like a wolf, convincing people to isolate on their own and be vulnerable. Anyway, we've got this colic fountain. We got carriages. There are lots of carriages that don't seem to be going anywhere anymore. We have a brick troll friend. Like, the entrance is right over there, buddy. It's sort of like a dog that doesn't realize that the door is open. And we'll come back to here next run. But for now, I'm going to go a shortcut. I think a lot of people miss the first time they played this game.
I don't reckon you're from round here. Well, stuck outside on a night of the hunt. Oh, you poor, poor thing.
People will use lines like that as evidence that the night of the hunt is just a thing you survive, sort of like the purge, but why would the people in the hunt have a knowledge of what is actually going on? They believe wrongly that if, you know, they make it through, it ends, and it won't. That's at least my interpretation. You can take it or leave it. The nice part about going this route, we'll go ahead and get this item. Nice part about going this route is that you open up the most useful shortcut immediately. It really gives you the ability to just transverse the stage effortlessly, and that's a nice thing to have. Dying there would have been really sad. But here we are back at the original lap. We've got some pretty good view here. For now, we're going to move on. Take a safety vial. But yeah, this game emphasizes often just running through areas in a way that feels very feral, and I think it's a good way to convey a theme through gameplay. We have our caged up section. This one is actually a fairly vicious enemy if you let it get out of hand. I have a paranoia about them getting out, so we'll just ensure that doesn't happen. The dog here, maybe one of the things that first highlights what these red lanterns signify, which is a town individual who will actually talk to you.
Indoors isn't always enough. Well, if you once had got off your arses, you wouldn't be in this mess. You're obligated to help me, you hear? So what, Libby? Are you going to tell me you're not?
We get our first sign of a quest.
No respect for the elderly is what that is. That little good you outsiders do. Go on. Admit it. You think we're all mad, don't you?
I mean, yeah.
Well, go and stop it. I know all your tricks.
A little more casual racism. Wouldn't be Bloodborne without it. Our next section is going to involve going through here, but I think I want to clear out the area below just for safety's sake. Enemies that definitely reward learning how to use the parry mechanic. So, the humans that you see in this all think you are a beast. Meanwhile, their large humanoid friends seem considerably more beastly than they are. There is a sense of being unaware of the condition that they are in. They lack, let's say, insight. This is incidentally probably one of the better blood vial farming areas early on. So if you find yourself getting stuck behind them, it's a relatively good starting run for fixing that. We want to try to get the hunter gunman down ASAP and not take that damage. Or that damage. Oof. Less than ideal, but we'll take it. I'll have to deal with it a little later. For now, we've got the area cleaned out that I wanted to. It's a very interesting room that we have here. Well, that's nice and useful. We have these strange devices all over. And they confused me for the longest time. I saw them again in the DLC, and I was just perplexed as to what it was that they were for. Wow, that had more range than I expected. Alright. We'll get back to them in a little bit. For now, we have another area to explore. It's got an item for us, but more important than this item, if we cut down these corpses, we can pick up their shining little treasure. Want to do it without falling off. There we go. Now it's time for one of the coolest NPCs in the series.
Oh, a hunter, are you? And an outsider? What a mess you've been caught up in. And tonight of all nights. Here, to welcome the new hunter. Prepare yourself for the worst. There are no humans left. They're all flesh-hungry beasts now. Still lingering about. What's wrong? A hunter unnerved by a few beasts. No matter. Without fear in our hearts, we're little different from the beasts themselves. What are you still doing here? Enough trembling in your boots. A hunter must hunt.
Fear is a major part of her storyline. It's not made too explicit, but it is it's significant, and we'll get back to that later. For now, we have to go get those items that we dropped. And, you know, ideally you try to take as little fall damage as possible. Alternatively, you just don't care. I don't even remember if there's a shorter shot here. Not really. So. We fought. We have an item. But first we have... taken care of. saw spear. Pretty nice weapon. I might have a mild preference over the saw cleaver with it, but we're going to be saw cleavering at least for a while. And just to, like, force you to think about that room, you have to jump down twice to get each of the items. Because I think there's an intention to make you think what is going on here. There we go. Just some bloodstone shards, nothing too amazing. What do we have here? The knives, the rats having throwing knives, I feel means something, but I don't know what. Anyway, we have Madman's knowledge. So let's take a look. Skull of a madman touched by the wisdom of the Great Ones, used to gain insight. Making contact with eldritch wisdom is a blessing, for even if it drives one mad, it allows one to serve a greater purpose for posterity. There's an interesting element to the art design there. I think I want to bring it up later, though. For now, we'll just use it. But what is the Madman's insight? Well, there are certain items in this series that I think are most definitely placed very intentionally to sort of convey a interesting sort of thematic storyline. And here, the Madman's insight. Why are there boats? We have another area in this game that is very distinctly missing water. We have sort of a canal system that is no longer functional. And those things up there, they would be for loading and unloading stuff that is coming in and out of the boats. We're in a sort of port. But water's missing, like it is so often. Anyway. We'll clean up a little bit more of this area. Not too much exciting going on. But then we'll head back to the Hunter's Dream and we'll see if the insight does anything. Pro tip, it does do something. For the, like, one person who doesn't know the gimmick coming up. Gimmick is such a harsh way to put it. But that aquatic theme is very much again here in this game. We have essentially an aqueduct system that is dried up. I really thought there was something in it. There we go. None terribly important, but, you know, thoroughness. The shining red over there, I think, is sort of just a lighting bug. Will I make it? Ta-da! We could just bold Hunter's Mark. That would be a viable option. But we're here, and we might as well take the scenic route, because that insight that we got is going to be very important, and there's 4 different ways that you can get it. I've talked about one, and we won't talk about the third, but this is the fourth. And guarded by some crows who do not typically fly especially well. And so we get the second Madman's knowledge, and this one, you know, might be a stretch. I'm sort of two minds about it, but hypothetically, what if these crows weren't actually meant to fly, and that's why they are as bad as it is they look? A lot of people make the assumption that it's the plague that's doing it to them, but there's this visual aspect to them that makes me wonder if they're really designed to swim, sort of like a puffin. They've got the sort of inflated, bulky gullet. Is it a gullet? I don't honestly know.
Wretched outsider. Trying to fool me to open this door. Heaven's depths of depravity.
You'll notice that there is a light there, but I think I want to save that one until video 3. And meanwhile, we've got another shortcut. Pretty useful one. Not as nearly as useful as our last, but... And we're back here at the fountain. The fountain. Is that the first place you hear the bell? And was that only 3 rings? Don't worry, I'm sort of thinking to myself on that one. Interesting that this one is very hard to sneak up on. We have Molotov cocktails, and we have a torch. We'll take our shortcut back. We will go down the road, through the building, and Hunter's Dream it. Nice try. Admirable effort. Well, this is new.
Hello, good hunter. I am a doll, here in this dream to look after you. Honorable hunter, pursue the echoes of blood, and I will channel them into your strength. You will hunt beasts, and I will be here for you, to embolden your sickly spirit. Did you speak with Gehrman? He was a hunter long, long ago, but now serves only to advise them. He is obscure, unseen in the dreaming world. Still, he stays here, in this dream. Such is his purpose. Farewell, good hunter.
May you find your worth in the waking world. We now know We now know the voice from the start.
This was once a safe haven for hunters. A workshop where hunters used blood to enhance their weapons and flesh. We don't have as many tools as we once did, but you're welcome to use whatever you find. Even the dog, should it please you.
People find that last bit incredibly creepy. I don't blame them, but I do think that there's more going on there than meets the eye. We have our first upgrade. We will put some points.
Welcome home. What is it? Very well, let me.
Into, you know, gonna be bold. A whole 4 damage. Yeah, we'll go with that, whatever.
Farewell, good hunter.
And only 5
you
Bleckos left. Anyway, that will cut it for today's run. The one thing I want to impress upon you is that I'm fairly certain that the Madman's insight is that there's supposed to be water here. There's always supposed to be water here.